And it is easy for us to see the totalitarian things that are coming at us and be apathetic. But we are co-creators of this reality, whether you like it or not. And so what you put your attention on, your thoughts, your speech, your beliefs, your actions, and your attitudes are expressing every single day. And when we are giving our attention to that future, we are creating that future. So confluence is about creating a future that is better, creating a future that is not totalitarian, creating a future that has humans and nature and all nations in harmony and our bodies in harmony, because our body is only a microcosm of everything else. So there's war inside our body, there's war in our family, there's war in our community, and we have war in Iran. Those are not separate, whether we like it or not. We have to heal what we can heal immediately.
Welcome to the Healing with the Diamonds podcast. We are Larry and Kaylin Diamond, here to share the insights and practical wisdom of our journeys using ancestral wisdom to heal as a family. This podcast is for educational purposes only. Before making any lifestyle changes, consult your medical team. This is not medical advice. With that being said, let's start this episode. Welcome. Hi, everyone. I am Larry Diamond, along with Kaylin Diamond of Healing with the Diamonds. We bring ancestral wisdom to modern families like ours and yours. And we have the great pleasure to have Mollie Engelhart of Sovereign Tree Ranch and in Bandera, Texas. Is that the nearest city?
Yes, sir.
Awesome. And I became captivated by her story living in Texas, a few hours away. I've known about her ranch. It's been on our bucket list and her conference, and she has graciously joined us today. So we're going to talk about her story and what it means to every family. And I think in some way, every family can upgrade their connection with nature, with healing, and with each other when we look to nature and her wisdom, and that we are part of nature, not apart from nature. And as the great farmer poet Wendell Berry says, eating is an agricultural act. Even if we're going to supermarkets, any time we eat, it is an agricultural act. So we're not as intimately involved in raising our own food as Mollie is, but we do eat food. So whether you're a producer, consumer, or both, every time we eat, it is an agricultural act. So, Mollie, can you, sorry, anything you want to say on that? But I'd like you to introduce yourself to our listeners.
I literally have that written on a shipping container, like in a mural in front of the restaurant on the ranch, that Wendell Berry quote. And then I have the other quote that says, "A nation that destroys its soils destroys itself," on the other shipping container. My name is Mollie Engelhart, and I am most well known for turning from a vegan chef in Los Angeles with 5 restaurants to a Texas cattle rancher. As life paths go, I guess that's not the most in path. I would say I might be the only vegan chef turned Texas cattle rancher that there is. If there's someone else out there, I'm interested to know them. But I had an awakening through nature, and I really just realized that nature doesn't lie. And it wasn't all at once. These awakenings came little by little over time. And I had these restaurants, they were super successful. It's called Sage Vegan Bistro. They were Culver City, Echo Park, Pasadena, all the areas of California, in the Los Angeles area. And then eventually in 2013, my brother got very interested in regenerative agriculture. He went to an eco conference and he heard this guy, Graham Sate, talk. And then I listened to Graham Sate's TED talk, and I got really inspired about the possibility of soil. And the truth was, I was vegan and I was an environmentalist and I was doing all the things I thought I was supposed to do. And deep down, I kinda still felt apathetic and like we were all just gonna burn in a fiery hell of this planet that we were destroying, and for the first time, I could see a role to step into that could create a future that wasn't terrible and dystopian, and that led me to regenerative agriculture, which then led me to realize that we, of course, belong here, and we are a part, not apart from nature, but a part of nature, and it also had me realize nature doesn't lie, and so I'm here in LA, and it's all the stuff, all the ideologies, and all these ideas of modern society, and in 2018, I finally get my own farm, and I move on to the farm, and I'm just observing nature and, people I got people at the restaurant that are trying to sue me because I called her "she" when she's a "they," and so that's, like, the world I'm living in, and I'm trying to navigate, and then we go into 2020, and there's all the George Floyd stuff, and I just start to look at nature, and I'm like, "Wow," like, gender is not a construct. Gender is binary, and race is a construct, and nature can show us that. You've never seen a goat consider what color their child was. You've never seen a herd of cattle be concerned that there's different colors of cattle in the herd. It's all the herd. And so we have forgotten that we are one people under God, and we should be indivisible. But the thing is that we are so divisible because we've made up all these crazy separation tactics, whether it's religion, and I'm a follower of Christ. I love Christ, but religion and even inside of Christianity, like, "Oh, you're Lenting, are you Catholic? That's a pagan." And then someone else like, "You're having a Christmas tree? That's a pagan holiday." Yeah, I mean, we just find every way to divide from each other, right? And so race and gender and religion and all these different things, but nature is really clear, like, all mammals prioritize water first, food second, reproduction third, and some animals prioritize shelter, others do not. It depends on the animal. We prioritize shelter and comfort, and we've just
Mm,
given up our reproduction. We've given up clean water. We have given up good food. We don't even know what good food is anymore. We
yeah.
just we just enter into the world and we're like, go to the grocery store and we eat whatever. I saw a man this week, and I won't say his name because I know him and I know his wife, but they came out to dinner at the restaurant. We don't serve soda at our restaurant here on the ranch. I know for a fact because his wife came in and told me he had a heart attack this week. They came out to dinner and it was an 8-course like supper club that we do. The husband, who just had the heart attack, just ordered nachos from the menu, didn't want the 8-course meal, and he brought a big gulp, like a 42-ounce or whatever soda with him, and I was like, "I'm so confused, like, we are adults, like, we know better, right? Like, we know better. Who would be drinking soda the week that they had a heart attack?" But then you go to the grocery store and you see it all the time, and I write every day. I have a column in the Epoch Times, and
Mm,
I just a couple days ago wrote "The Drug We Refuse to Name," and it's about sugar because I was at the grocery store and I'm just looking around, and it's the same thing. I see a guy that has a Band-Aid right here on his hand, a Band-Aid right here on his neck, and a Band-Aid right here. So clearly he just got out of the hospital, right? He had a port, he had an IV, and probably some blood taken, or maybe I don't know what was done right there. And I'm thinking I look at his cart, it's 2 Hungry Man dinners, cigarettes, a bottle of vodka, and 2 things of soda. And I'm like, we've just totally lost our way." Like, every other mammal knows, like, "Oh, I'm feeling a little stomachache, I should eat this grass or this." Like, every other mammal. I have a cat right now that's injured, and I'm giving her homeopathy in her water, and then I was like, "Oh, let me give her the other water just in case she doesn't wanna get dosed every time she drinks." You can't believe the cat will drink from the regular water, and then 3, 4 times a day, she'll dose herself with the homeopathics.
no,
Like,
I
every other animal knows what to do, and we don't. We've lost our way.
wow, this is absolutely amazing. I'm guessing that you know of the incredible gentleman Fred Provenza. in his amazing book, Nourishment.
Yeah.
But one of I give a lot of people a talk he did in Montana, and researchers somehow turned rats type 2 diabetic and then gave them unlimited different types of food. The rats spontaneously, which is not their normal way of eating, and low carb rats, and they knew how to reverse their type 2. Rats knew how to reverse type 2. I would also add
That's
that
so crazy. Will you send me that article? I mean, that talk? I wanna write an article about that because
I
that
will.
just shows that rats are it's not that rats, divine intelligence, which is in all of us, is smarter than we are. Obviously, divine, it means from God. Intelligence is smarter than all of us. We are just so distracted that we can't hear the divine intelligence. The whole this whole milk fasting, I'm on day 40 something, 43 as we're filming this, milk fasting, and the first time I did the milk fast, I kept having the thought that I should fast, and I've been breastfeeding for
Mm,
11 years consecutively, so you're not supposed to fast while you're breastfeeding and or pregnant, and I was basically pregnant and breastfeeding for 11 years consecutively, pregnant or breastfeeding. Or no, I breastfed through all my pregnancies, so both. But anyways, to say that and then I just had this download about milk
mm.
fasting. Then when I researched it, did you know that the Mayo Clinic originally started as a milk fasting clinic?
Only from you. I've only heard the term. You're the first one. I know lots about fasting. I got the great opportunity to work for Dr. Jason Fung and Megan Ramos, the fasting method. I cannot say that we ever did milk fasting though, but now I'm very intrigued. Do you, and before I ask you about the science of milk fasting, and I can see the logic, there's another article that I can send you. I don't know if you've heard about this because they wouldn't be able to do this now. Have you ever heard of Clara Davis and the wisdom of children? Clara Davis in the 1930s in an orphanage had, I think, children from about 18 months to I don't know how old they went. But what she did was, as best as she could, to give all the adults to not give any instructions on what the kids should eat. So, but there was only whole real food. Each child chose a different combination of foods. But when their choices were analyzed, it was they were all better nutritionally than anything that any pediatrician had ever come up with. So that divine intelligence, like every kid, not 20 out of 30, not 29 out of 30, 30 out of 30 without any instruction. Now, they didn't have the fake food and the sugar addiction, like, but given a real food environment and no training in any nutrition, all children, can pick the best way of eating for them. We just know. We know. So that's very exciting. But I'm intrigued.
I would love that article to see that article. The science, and I am in no way, shape, or form a scientist. I'm more of a philosopher and a farmer.
Natural philosopher.
But I had a friend who got the COVID vaccine thing. I am not interested in that kind of technology in my body, but she got psyoped into the plan of getting the injection and found out she had no bifidobacteria after that. And so I started
Mm,
thinking, and this was in my deep, I was writing the book and in my deep, like nature has all the answers kind of time of my life. That's the lens I was looking at everything through. And so I'm looking at the idea, and then so I start to research. I asked ChatGPT, when do humans have the most bifidobacteria? And it said that breastfed children between 3 and 6. And so basically, after you're finished breastfeeding and you've introduced food, so I thought, okay, well, then breast milk is creating the foundation for a positive microbiology in your gut, right? It's not actually having it has some microbiology in it, obviously, but it's not having the microbiology, but it's literally creating the plant community, the development in your gut for this. Then a baby starts eating little bits of food and the microbiology and starts licking the floor and whatever. And then the microbiology has an environment to live in. And so, my theory, not scientist fact, my theory is that basically raw milk is a perfect food made to take the most vulnerable from weak and unable to survive to strong and able to survive. And so, in that theory, if someone is very sick, they are weak and cannot survive or are not thriving, at least. And through raw milk only, we could create the environment, the foundation to build this microbiology on top of. And so, my thought was yes, people are doing fecal transplants and even swallowing people's poop pills and a lot of stuff trying to get back. People are buying indigenous people's poop and then doing fecal transplants, all this stuff to get because we have what I would call a industrial microbiome where most of and even what we're calling like a healthy microbiome is like above 3,000 species, but like an indigenous person who's living close to the dirt, cooking over fire, eating food from the garden has something like 60,000 compared to where, but you start to have collapse below 3,000 and we consider above 6,000, but there's 10 times that in like
Right.
indigenous cultures that are living out there. So I didn't want to recommend this to someone who was already suffering from being sick and I'm not a doctor without doing it myself. And I had been having it on my heart that I wanted to fast. People were doing water fasts around me. People were doing the master cleanse. I had been a fan of the master cleanse prior to um, doing having babies and being breastfeeding. And I had been just really wanting to fast. And so I decided to do it for 2 weeks to test it out for this lady that I was trying to do research on how she could get her bifida back after the vaccine. I mean, I don't wanna call it a vaccine, the technology. So, basically, I did it in November of '24, and I lost some weight, and more impressive than I lost some weight, I didn't lose any muscle, so that's the other thing a lot of times when you're fasting, you lose a lot of muscle, and then I am 40, almost 48 right now, so I was a little younger then, 46, but when I first wake up in the morning, when I was first waking up in the morning, I was having a little stiffness in my hands, a little pain in my ankles and my knees, and get up, go in, pee, brush your teeth, get in the shower, and it goes away. It's not something I'm suffering from all day, but it was definitely there first thing in the morning. And it disappeared within 5 or 6 days of starting the milk fast. I also had this tiny little bothersome I don't even know what it was, like, almost a cyst on the bottom of my foot. It actually has a name, I forgot what it is, but it's, like, on the sole of your foot, but it's a numb spot that's basically a cyst, and I don't know if I got a little piece of glass in my foot or whatever, but they wanted to do surgery on it. I was not wanting to do surgery, and I just kinda had left it, and it was, like, this numb spot on the bottom of my foot. There was a cyst of something inside underneath. Disappeared almost by the end. I did 2 weeks. I ended up going 17 days and then stopping right before Thanksgiving because my kids were like, "It is not gonna be fun if you're not eating for Thanksgiving." So I stopped. So that was 17 days in 2024, and that little cyst thing almost went fully away. It got down to, like, this big, and then I started eating again, and it it grew not as big as it was, but it grew a little bit more back, and so when Lent came around and I was thinking about what I was gonna give up for Lent, and I always give up coffee, and then I give up something else besides coffee, I thought, "I'm just going to" so that was November, so 4 months later, I said, "I'm gonna do 46 days." Actually, I thought Lent was 40 days. I never actually counted the days when you're doing coffee, and sugar, it's not that big of a deal. But when you're or I'm gonna do gluten-free or whatever, it's not that big of a deal. When you're not eating, all of a sudden you're counting like, "How could I be at 40 days and still have 6 days to go?" But I lost over 40 pounds. I went from a size 8 to a size 4, and the cyst completely cleared up and went away. And this little tiny patch, I also had a tiny little patch of what I assume is athlete's foot under my pinky toe, like a little fungal thing. And it was not big, it never spread, but it was irritating and persistent, right? That also went away. And all my stiffness, inflammation, and 40 pounds. And so I thought, so I start researching. Turns out that I believe it was the Mayo Clinic started as a milk fasting clinic. And all of the information has kind of been wiped away, but there's a few documents out there that you can find. One of them is a doctor's notebook, and in it, it says we're having universally exemplary results against 70 different diseases, including, and it was like cancer, gout, bowel obstruction. Like this is like a long time ago. We weren't like cutting people open for everything, right? And so there was things that, and here was the protocol. It was 2 to 6 quarts of milk a day, raw milk, raw unpasteurized milk a day, bed rest, 2 hot baths a day, and if it was skin conditions, they were putting the milk in the first bath and then not the second bath.
Nice.
And that's it. And sunshine.
Love
So
it.
this is what they started out doing, and according to the notes, universally exemplary results against 70 different diseases. Crohn's, all different kinds of stuff. So I'm now totally an advocate of milk fasting because it's way easier than water fasting. I think water fasting, if you have cancer, is like awesome, but there's a limit to how much you can water fast. There's also a limit with your breastfeeding, you're pregnant, you have children, life is, I see people water fast and they're like pretty loopy and resting almost all the time once 2 weeks goes by or whatever. It's not like you could just keep doing your life, right? So this, you could just keep doing your life. You're just totally okay. And you just keep doing your life because you're totally nourished and you're healing. So I am actually about to do a biores machine today to see the condition of my organs pre and post this most recent fast because I have 6 more days, or I have till Saturday, but I don't I won't have an opportunity to do that machine. So I'm going to check and see how much energy is basically going to each organ post and pre the fast. So I'm in the research phases, but I think it's amazing. And so many people are inspired by what I'm doing that we have people all over the country tagging me, telling people I'm doing a milk fast. I'm so excited. I've lost 20 pounds. I can't believe this. My mother's got diabetes. I got someone in the hospital in California right now from diabetes. He's getting out and he just had surgery on his foot because he's having
Yeah.
whatever, like
Neuropathy. Sorry.
neuropathy.
Yeah.
And so, and then he's not responding well to the antibiotics and all this stuff. And I said, you have to have a major change. And so his wife and I are talking about him doing a milk fast right now. So, I mean, I'm just super inspired about it. And I didn't have 40 pounds to lose this year. So I have not lost 40 pounds. I've lost a little bit of weight, but I've definitely lost inflammation. I don't have bags under my eyes. I don't have, I'm just feeling really great. And I'm definitely, yeah, I'm slimmer, but I didn't lose I lost 40 pounds last
In your
year.
muscle.
And I'm keeping my muscle. And I'm only 5 foot, so losing 40 pounds is a significant amount on 5 foot. I don't have that much more weight to lose.
This is wow. I think me and my wife might be doing this soon. And shout out to Ash Acres. They're a dairy in Belton, Texas, about 20, 30 miles from us. And they come to our local farmers market. So that's where we get our raw milk from. And
Awesome.
yeah, yeah. Oh, we love our farmers market. There's a farmer that he's actually delivered some plants to our home. One was an elderberry tree, and she's doing fantastic. And I planted a mulberry tree last year, no berries, but now I can see hundreds of berries this year. So we're hoping to be supplying, we're in suburban Round Rock, but we're hoping to be supplying our berry needs. And we also love growing our own herbs as a culinary creative. And we at Healing with the Diamonds, we do live cooking demos. We did them for, years. And that's one of the joys of healing with real food. Your food appreciation and experience doesn't diminish. If you do it right, it increases. So that's what I always say. Somebody goes, we do primal. So we do feel that primal is very expansive. It's everything from vegetarian to carnivore, but it does suggest people think about seeing if going grain free and possibly legume free, that their microbiome, their whole ecosystem would improve. And at least in America, with glyphosate able to be used as a desiccant, I've seen so many of our clients really thrive with grain free. And then there's an additional benefit of grain free. It's almost like an easy button. My wife's an elementary school teacher, and every day in the break room, things that she's choosing not to have, they almost all have grains. If we're at a party, there's almost all grain. So if somebody's freely decided, you know, for their best quality of life to be grain free, it takes away decision fatigue, which is great. So you don't look at the grains 10 times. And I want to be clear that we do, even my wife and I, we can thrive with long fermented sourdough bread. And I know the bacteria are digesting most of the gluten, but that's a traditional sourdough bread, which I'm sure you produce and have available. We'd be fine with that. So if we came to your restaurant and we had your sourdough bread, but a supermarket bread and your bread, I think they both might have the name bread, but they're entirely different. So food, food quality matters. If somebody was starting an herb garden, from your perspective, what would be some herbs, both for teas and culinary? Because I can have unlimited herbal tea from our own gardens, but I'm a huge fan of herbs.
Lemon verbena, I think, is the most largely underappreciated tea herb in the world. I barely know anybody that has lemon verbena in their yard, and I have a lot of it. I have bushes all over the ranch. I think lemon verbena, I think lemongrass is
Mm,
prolific, and it can be used for digestion, it can be used for tea, it can be used for curries, it could be used for everything. So lemon verbena and lemongrass, I think, are highly underappreciated in the herb garden space. And then I think spilanthes is one of the most important medical herbs, medicinal herbs to have. It is also known as buzz buttons, as is like the hipster trendy name for it when they make it into cocktails and stuff. But I would say that
wow.
spilanthes, and then like you said, the elder having an elderberry tree is a great way to have medicine. Um, and then I mean, I love basil, I love pesto, I love just like a simple basil. And then it's nice to have a Tulsi basil, to have a little bit of a more medicinal basil, and it's perennial, and so that's nice. I don't have Tulsi basil right now. I left my Tulsi basil plants in California, and I have not replanted them here. And then I think chili peppers. I think I
One.
don't believe food that's not spicy is worth eating. That's my hardest part about fast. I was like the other day, like trying to want to sneak one jalapeno out of the um line, but I don't believe food that's not spicy is worth eating.
I
It's my
love it.
uh,
I love it.
opinion, and we are not grain free. We lean heavy on organic, fresh milled, long fermented. Even when you come to our restaurant, the pizzas are fermented, long fermented, the pita is long fermented, the breads are all long fermented. So we lean heavy on that. Do think I'm like mostly vegetarian. I don't eat very much meat. And so it would be challenging for me, I think, to do no grains and no legumes because I eat bone broth and I eat a little, but I don't eat very much meat. Um, but I have seen lots of people thrive on a grain-free diet, but I ultimately think God made food perfect and we have messed with it. And so as long as foods are in their traditional forms and their traditional ways of preparation and they're in their whole forms, they are far less harmful than when we take out a piece of anything. Just like if you think about cocaine, we think cocaine is bad because it is, but the coca leaf is a totally normal tea in Ecuador and lots of countries. Lots of indigenous cultures chew on the mambe is one word they call it, but it's basically an alkaline ash and the leaf of the coca plant mixed together, and it cleans your they put it in their cheek and it gives them energy, it cleans your blood. It's practically a superfood, and then we refined cocaine into something that's terrible for you. Well, ultimately a sugar beet or sugar cane is not bad for you. It is what we have done to sugar that makes it bad for you. And so I'm of the belief that God created food perfect. And if we eat it in the way that He created it in its whole form, then it is not going to be bad for us. It is only in the way that we have taken and we have denatured it and taken a small piece of it and want to eat just part of it rather than the whole form in which God gave it to us.
I love that. And we teach our clients, and, everyone's an individual. And we would be willing to have that pizza with the long ferment at your restaurant. And also with legumes, what I just adore is that cultures that maybe didn't have any contact and over thousands of years all found that soaking and sprouting legumes made them so much healthier. And it's, yeah, I totally agree with you. So
Or if
thank you.
corn, look at corn, they figured out how to put it mistecalize it and put cal or lime in
Lime,
it.
yes.
That's word in Spanish is cal, that's why. But and then boil it, and then it's way more digestible, the calories are available, etcetera, etcetera, etcetera. And so we are that we have villainized corn. Corn is not the devil. What we have done to corn is not right. Genetically modifying it, cooking it without first cooking it with lime, and then eating it. All of those things are a concern for the body. But we grow here on the ranch, we grow old varieties of corn, such as we grow old varieties of corn like Oaxacan green corn and the desert tone dent corn from the Americas. And this old varieties of corn, our tortillas are kind of a greenish color because of the Oaxacan green corn. And these tortillas are totally good food. I'm okay with my kids eating them every day, but it's been mistecalized. And we grew it here on the land. There's no chemicals, there's no Roundup, there's no whatever. And there's so many calories in corn that when you plant a corn plant, it can grow almost 6 to 8 inches before it needs to take any nutrients from the soil around it because of how much energy that God has packed into that little kernel. So it is good energy. It is what we have done to it. So really, when we're eating corn, we want it to be organic and non-GMO, not fried in seed oils, and we want it to be cooked with cal or lime before being made into a tamale or a tortilla or anything like that. And that's really important. And often corn chips that you buy in the store, they don't do that. They're just basically making like a cornmeal thing. And if you are a person who doesn't even know about that and you just made cornbread for years or whatever, I now make my cornbread different than how I used to. I now take the masa after we boil it with the corn, with the cow or the thing. I grind it and then it's wet ground. And then I just lower the amount of water or milk that I would put into my recipe. And I use that as my flour, but it's wet when I get it, right? I boiled it already. But that way, I'm making a beautiful cornbread that has been boiled with the lime to break it down and make it more bioavailable for our bodies. And see how indigenous cultures figured this out all across the world. They figured out that it's more digestible if you do that. And so it is very interesting that you can see that cultures have always figured that out. And I mean, we can see what's happening in California right now. Newsom signed a bill to add synthetic folate acid to all tortillas because they believe that this is gonna help spinal bifida. Well, here's the crazy you wanna hear the craziest thing.
No, I
A
know.
large percentage of people cannot methylate folic acid from a synthetic source.
Yep.
When you drill down on those spinal bifida numbers, it's the people that can't methylate synthetic folic acid that are having children with spinal bifida because they're not from so they need to eat more whole food sources of it. Now is much higher in these people that can't methylate it. So now they're saying that Latino women are having more spinal bifida by percentage. It's a very small percentage. It's almost negligible, but they are having a slightly higher rate of spinal bifida. So if we add folic acid to tortillas, we're going to solve for this. Well, guess what? Latino women have almost a 40% rate of this not able to methylate folic acid from synthetic sources. So actually, no, what we're doing is we're poisoning 40% of people to save 1 in 100,000 children from getting spinal bifida. It does not make any sense. The numbers don't make sense. It's honestly that we need to educate people that if you have this genotype where you can't methylate this, you have to make sure that you're getting whole food sources of folic acid. But ultimately, we all should be getting whole food sources of that. And so it goes spinal bifida is most common in Latino women, followed by white women, followed by Asian women, followed the least in Black women. Well, that is exactly, Black women have less than 2% that can't methylate the synthetic folic acid. Into Asian women, it's a lower number than white women. White women have a lower number. So it's literally exactly in line with who can't methylate. So by putting more synthetic folic acid, we're not going to solve the problem. We literally have to educate people that have this condition to get more folic acid from natural food sources.
Absolutely. Thank you for yes.
Thank you for,
And
yeah.
this is happening. No, what you're doing, what we're sharing knowledge and wisdom. And as we go on this journey, and you mentioned that all animals seek water than food. They also seek air. We can't last very long with air. And speaking of God, the ether, we all and they seek sun, of course. So we only have. I want to. This has been wonderful, and I'm going to try and get my family to go this weekend out to the farm. It's about 2.5 hours for us. So wow. Can you talk about Confluence? And I really like the name Confluence. One of the speakers is going to be Eileen Day McCusack, and we've used sound healers. And I recommend her book, Electric Body, Electric Health, because she really is at the confluence of spirituality and science. And those didn't used to be separate. In our shamanic ancestors, the shaman was kind of a priest, a healer, and, and a food raiser all in one, and they were both male and female. So I don't know where the name confluence, I'd like to hear, but to me, the confluence of all these ancient wisdom traditions, and then the I'm not saying that science is all bad or that our left hemisphere or rationality is all bad. I believe in the melding of the divine feminine and the divine masculine in all souls, the heart and brain coherence and all that. But the word confluence really intrigues me. So can you talk about what's upcoming? So hopefully some of our listeners show up as well.
Yeah, so Confluence, it started pretty much as an anti-vax festival, but then obviously we wanted to expand out of that once COVID was over. And so it used to be called Sowing Sovereignty. We did it the first time in California. Actually, Eileen McCusack came up with the name Confluence.
Wha-
It's really a confluence of ideas to move humanity forward. There's not one answer. So people ask me all the time, hey, Mollie, what? You bring up all these issues in the world. You're calling attention to all these issues, but like, what is the answer? Well, the answer is not any one thing, but it is radical resilient community. That is like the answer. Like we have to have that. But that is going to look like so many different things. So there's healing that needs to be done. There's healing, physical healing. There's emotional healing that needs to be done. There's food healing that needs to be done. There's system healing that needs to be done. There's heart healing that like your own self. So confluence is these ideas, and it's a festival where you could learn about blindfold vision, and you could also learn about how to become a sovereign citizen and change your status or not be a taxpayer or change your status over there, correct that. Or you could learn about gardening or electroculture or farming. So there's just so many different things that you can learn about because the pathway forward is not one thing. It is not that everybody's not going to come and live on a farm like I am. Everybody is not going to be radically food fasting, milk fasting, whatever. But everybody's gonna do some parts, and we, the
Got it.
people, have to have the will to wield the power that belongs to us, that was granted to us by God. The power comes from God through us, not from the government down to us, and so in that, we have to be coming together in person, and we have to be creating a future where we step out of the house every single day. We kick the door down and we say, I belong here and I'm going to be the best cell in the body that I can be. And how do I do that? Not everybody knows. I feel really clear. I'm clear. I know what I'm doing, but that's not everybody. So this is to come and find your path, find your people. And, whether it's Eileen McCusack or we have, Alex Zek, we have all these different really big names that are coming, and they're going to be talking about everything from the control grid and money, and Catherine Austin Fitz will be talking about that, to all different ideas that are in the world, to physical movement, to sound healing in the pond, like really just it's a confluence of things happening. And you do this all in the container of Sovereignty Ranch, on the land, living on the land, eating food from the land. And it is a privilege to be able to be somewhere grounded to that land and eat the food from that land. That is a rare privilege that only happens very little in our current world, because in our current world, we eat mostly from very far places away. And so it is a privilege to get to live on the land, camp, or be in a tiny house, be grounded to that land, be eating on that land, and then be fed also in your heart and in your mind by all of this education and the people that are moving the needle forward. And it is easy for us to see the totalitarian things that are coming at us and be apathetic. But we are co-creators of this reality, whether you like it or not. And so what you put your attention on, your thoughts, your speech, your beliefs, your actions, and your attitudes are expressing every single day. And when we are giving our attention to that future, we are creating that future. So confluence is about creating a future that is better, creating a future that is not totalitarian, creating a future that has humans and nature and all nations in harmony, and our bodies in harmony, because our body is only a microcosm of everything else. So there's war inside our body, there's war in our family, there's war in our community, and we have war in Iran. Those are not separate, whether we like it or not. We have to heal what we can heal immediately. And we know that water is self-healing. We've seen it. Veda Austin has proved it. And we are 90% water. And when you put a healthy water from a spring next to a tap water, it heals it. When you put a healthy egg from a chicken that came from not a factory farm next to a factory farm egg, it heals it. Brings it back to coherency. So the what so is we can bring those around us back to coherency. And that's what it's about.
Wow. I'm getting goosebumps up and down my body. That's super aligned with who me and my wife are and what healing with the diamonds is. And can you give the dates? And we'll end with that. Sorry, we're a bit after.
It's okay. April 22nd is the early day, so it costs a little extra to come early, but there's gonna be a blind root fold reading session with Dr. Edith Abutu Chan, and then there's gonna be a bonfire, and there's gonna be a couple other sessions. and then it starts actually on the 23rd. And then on Sunday, so the 20th is the last day of regular program. And then we're going to have an integration day with you if you want to stay an extra day. That integration day is going to include really just some sessions integrating what we've learned and preparing to integrate back into your lives and how to bring that stuff uh, to not, because if people come, what we've realized in the past, and they love it and it's amazing and they want to change the world, and then they get back into their grind and they forgot, right? And so the integration day is really about
Mhm.
creating a future. People want to create a future to live into once they leave. That's what the integration day is, and that's Monday. So that's the 27th. So 22nd to the 27th, but you can just, but the main event is 23rd.
And I'll put all your info in the show description, but briefly, where can people find you?
People can I'm most active on, Instagram. I'm really trying to get my YouTube channel up, so if people could help by following me at Talk to Mollie or Farming with Chef Mollie, Talk to Mollie on YouTube, and follow me on Instagram, X, everywhere I'm Talk to Mollie, and I'm the most engaged on Instagram, I would say, and you can buy my book, Debunked by Nature, at the website for my publisher, acresusa.com or debunkedbynature.com. And I know that everybody likes free shipping more than they hate Amazon. So you can also get it on Amazon to get free shipping. Debunked by Nature, how a vegan chef changed her whole life. And you can find me at Sovereignty Ranch. And also, I write a daily column in the Epoch Times that is a subscription. And I'm also on Substack. So the things that are too controversial to go on Epoch Times end up on Substack.
Love that. And I will get you that video from Fred Provenza and also the Clara Davis info. Thank you so much. I know that me and my family will be seeing you sometime and hopefully at the conference as well.
You know that we have a teenage ticket that's highly discounted, and we have a teenage tent and everything. So you can
That
bring your son with you. We have teenage programming and everything. And there's also kids tent, kids program. This is a family friendly event. And I know people say things are family friendly, and I've brought my kids places and it's not family friendly. But this is legit. Like, let your kids be feral with, and there we have a kids tent, watch teachers and all programming going on.
awesome. Well, thank you so much. I feel hopeful and lighter having spoken with you and that we are all co creators. So thank you for reminding us of that and keep on creating, being a part of the better future for all.
Yes, sir. I will keep screaming into the abyss, hoping that the ripple effect makes a difference. And we are the ones we've been waiting for. So there's no white hats in the government. Trump's not going to save us. Like, it's not going to happen. It's up to us.
I'm right there with you. Take care.
Thank you so much for having me.